Good evening, known world. I am Excellency Rahmut al-Tayyiba, coming to you from the Kingdom of Artemisia in the Barony of Bronzehelm. With me today, I have the pleasure of having Her Ladyship Erin de Paladin with me. She is a friend, and I am very honored to have her here. Ladyship Erin, please tell everybody a little bit about you and why you are so incredible. Not that I need to be told, but they need to know.
My name is Her Ladyship Erin de Paladin. I live in the Barony of Arnhold in the Kingdom of Artemisia. I started playing in 1984, right here in Arnhold. Before there was even in Artemisia, we weren't even a principality yet. We're all part of Adenvelt. When Adenvelt went from the furthest northern border of the United States to the furthest southern border of the United States. A lot of people, I was around a lot of people that you all might consider legends, like Brian Carrigan and Trulon. It was a different SCA then, but it was really cool. There's some parts about that SCA that I do miss. I am currently the Knight Marshal of the Barony of Arnhold, where I run the fighter practices or a Kingdom event fighting if you come here to do that.
Always a pleasure to be there, too. You do a very good job.
We try to.
You do. So let's start with talking. Since you've been playing since the 80s, you've seen a lot of change happen in the SCA. And
I have.
With that change, you also have a better perspective on retention and how that's evolved through the years. So
yeah.
What would you say is the biggest change of or focus of retention?
Well, I think we're really, right now, we're ignoring our older members that aren't peers, that haven't, they're not peers, they're not a court baronage, but they're striving for this stuff. And they've been, from an outside perspective, they're head up against a wall and they're just not seeming to get where they want to go. And I kind of feel that that's, well, no, I don't kind of feel, I do feel that's not a good thing. And I don't think that that is good for our retention of both those older members that have been around a long time and the newer, younger members that you're trying to attract here. The one thing I really liked about the SCA when I was playing from 84 to 88 before I went in the Army, it was a bit looser. Achieving a peerage seemed much more attainable back in those days. It really did seem like something that I could achieve, that really anybody could achieve, and not have to work like you were having to work at your job in the mundane world. Because, we do this to escape that world. That world sucks. Nobody likes that world. I don't like that.
Exactly. We do this to have fun.
Right.
We don't do this.
We spend our valuable money. We spend our valuable vacation time to do this.
That is
so the last thing you want to do is work as hard as you work at your day job.
I totally agree and concur. Because, not many hobbies, should have that blood, sweat, and tears in the same aspect just to get by.
Exactly.
Because we're not putting our blood, sweat, and tears into our hobby just to get by, where that might be our work environment. We're putting our blood, sweat, and tears in our hobby because we're passionate and love it and want to share it with the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, come down to fighter practice and say, may I talk to you about the SCA? And we're going to be there a while. Because I'm going to chew your ear off about it. Matter of fact, I chewed some people's ear off about it today.
Nice.
But, the question I would have, and I would I am not calling out any particular order or any people with this, okay? Yes, I'm going to say some stuff that might make some of you feel uncomfortable. And if it does, that might mean you might need to step back and take a look at yourself, because the one thing I've noticed that the society has not been is we haven't been very accountable for our screw-ups here, you know.
This is
We
true.
used to be the only game in town.
We can
Now we're not.
No, we could always do better.
We
That's the
should
whole purpose
do.
of this system.
We should do better.
So those screw ups, let's talk about some of those if we can a little.
Yeah. So that in the 90s, when we brought that attitude from our mundane job to our play, it was very dog eat dog, every person for themselves. If you're not making it, sucks to be you. Cliquish, nasty, nasty attitude. And we brought that to our beautiful hobby. And it wasn't good.
Exactly, Dana.
Right. It's we're supposed to be helping one another. That's kind of, you know, if you're a man-at-arms or a squire or a student, apprentice, whatever you are, the one thing your peer tells you to do, well, you should go help that person put up their tent.
100%.
You should go help that person, you know, lift that heavy load, if not even lift it for them.
Go help them learn how to do something they're trying to do.
Exactly. Know. So my question is, if you're seeing this person who's been playing 30-something years and they're not achieving this goal that they have set for themselves, and if you're saying, well, you know, they shouldn't look at it as a goal, why not? We're goal-oriented creatures. That's what we do. Well, that's what human beings do.
And there definitely is now, more recently, kind of more that destigmatizing in certain circles, the wanting to be, you know, that hero, wanting to be that knight.
I never understood why that's looked on as a bad thing. I don't get it. You're gonna have to explain.
Because it's a goal.
It is a goal. And is this not us kind of living out a little personal fantasy? I am not really a Roman lady who fights as a Praetorian in Rome. No, I'm unfortunately.
But you do inspire people to maybe throw on the Roman garb and look at things through that perspective. Little feedback.
I'm not muted anymore. Oh, sorry. But you know, I just play this. This is fun. This is me living out a fantasy. And maybe part of that fantasy is achieving this thing, to be the hero, to be that. Whatever that may be, for whoever that is. So why shouldn't we help them get there? What is the problem with that? And why do they have to be your squire or your student or whatever? I mean, those official relationships are okay, but, you know, some of us have been down that road and it didn't work out very good for us.
Well, and regardless of the actual relationship, whether you have one or you don't, there's no guarantee of the actual peerage, but there's still nothing wrong with wanting to have that peerage.
Exactly. I've never understood why that is. You know, well, they want it, so therefore we can't give it to them. Why? Want is what drives us to be.
Well, it's your passion that's going to make you either succeed or fail, and it's your passion and want to do that most people will wind up seeking out those relationships, whether it's with their, you know, knight, their laurel, their pelican, their maud. You don't just get those relationships because you're not interested in it. You say yes because that's what you want.
Yeah, it's I would hope that, you know, anybody entering into that relationship was also friends with the person that they were learning from. And I'm speaking as somebody that wasn't. I have been squired twice, and I was not actually friends with the person beforehand, either one of them. And I have to believe that that, in part, led to why things just did not work out. Because we weren't friends. I was just a person to them. They were just a person to me.
And that definitely plays a role in retention, as far as, you know, if you're not friends with them and you have just kind of this working relationship, and, you know, you could have decided when the relationship went south to be like, that's it, I'm done with the SCA, my dream is ruined. Because some people do choose that and they get disgruntled with the SCA.
Yeah, and then they run out and form other groups. You know, almost all of our competition is our fault. That was created by somebody who got very disgruntled with our organization, and so much so they went out and created competition. That's
Definitely.
not good.
Definitely. Let's see what we've got. Bellegarde, Ampgarde, at least another dozen similar organizations. And I always try to look at them as not necessarily just competitors, but I always think of them as our sisters and brothers, our cousins, our, you know, grandparents, or our parents who, you know, they just decided to play in a different way. And because of our structure in our organization, weren't finding satisfaction. So they made their own.
Yeah, I look at it that way too. But there's a part of me that goes, oh, gee. You know, maybe we could have saved that person. Maybe we could have kept that person in the SCA versus them leaving mad and creating a competitor organization. We should try to keep people, you know, this whole, well, you know, maybe the SCA just isn't for you. That's not a good way to go about this.
No, and
because
that leaves...
yes, the SCA is for them. They joined it in the first place. They played for X amount of time. You know, they've invested time, money, and all that good stuff into it. So there's got to be something going on, and maybe that's where the SCA needs to be hold itself accountable. To say, ooh, definitely, we're screwing up here. Let's do better here.
And, you know, knowing that people that we care about, because...
You are muted, sweetie.
Uh-oh. Cal, am I muted still? Am I good?
Mm-mm.
You are not muted. So.
Oh. Okay, perfect. Sorry. So when it comes to having people leave that we care about, because we
can't hear you.
Oh no, Erin has no sound.
We can't hear you. No,
I'm sorry, Erin. Give us just a second here.
Okay, well.
Can you hear her?
This is interesting.
Erin, go ahead and refresh.
Either she's muted or I am. So who out there can hear me?
I mean, I can hear you. And Cal can hear me. Technical difficulties. Sorry, everyone. This does happen. So, obviously today I am dressed a little different. I'm actually wearing my Roman garb. My significant other, Sir Magnus, is a Roman. So, I have Roman garb. I just almost never wear it. This being a diadem, not a tiara. I am a court baroness, so rocking that. But Erin, her ladyship, is a friend of Magnus and myself, and I was inspired to go ahead and rock the Roman in her honor. And of course, might have been a suggestion as well from my amazing husband who said, go for it. So yes, that would be why I'm dressed different today. This is not a change in persona, FYI. I am still my Persian persona. We'll give Erin another moment or two. Give it a second. Come on, ladyship. It's not often that we have technical difficulties, but obviously when we do, it is fun. Oh, poor well, you know, I love Sir Magnus too, but I'm kind of biased. He is a good guy. So, you know, I'm going to do something a little bit different, Cal, if it's all right, until she comes back. I'm going to go ahead and do our show plugs now, and then I'll do them again in the end. So coming up on October 18th on Askanites Live, because Askanites Live is back, they actually have a show with King Connor and Prince Axel. So you definitely want to tune in for that. It's going to be phenomenal. On 10/23 on Coffee with Cal, he's going to be talking about enabling is a peer-like quality with Baroness Petrona. And then on 11/6 on our next episode of Road to Retention with maybe this special guest who happens to be on Askanites Live is Edward Littlejohn. So you'll definitely want to go ahead and tune in for that. Oh, and she's back, your ladyship. Sorry about that technical difficulties.
Microsoft.
Gotta love it. So let's talk about the accountability. What strategies do you think to help improve that accountability when it comes to retention and making, you know, members disgruntled? Because we don't want to leave people, you know, leaving our organization that are definitely valued members, and we don't want to lose our friends. We like to play with our friends.
Yeah. I always feel bad whenever I find out somebody has left the SCA. I always do. No, that was a member. They contributed. And I don't care if their contribution was only showed up to events, paid site fee, and hung out. That's still a contribution. They paid a site fee. They came. They were part of the ambiance. They had fun. That is a contribution.
Well, I mean, sometimes just taking up space at an event. I know that sounds like it's a horrible negative, but it's not. It is valued. You know, I might only get to say hi to everybody as much as I have availability, and I try to say hello to everyone, but seeing their face across the room, even if I don't have the time to talk to somebody, changes that event drastically. Especially, and I know this sounds really silly, especially with older members, because I value them more. They are that font of knowledge, skill, stories. Oh my goodness, the stories. That's not just history. That's legends in the making. They have where that happened, where it came from. I'm going to use a little vulgar language here. Sorry, I'm going to swear. The no shit there I was, that no shit there I was story, our members who have played for decades, they have that no shit because they were there. That no shit story originates with them.
Yeah, my first Estrella war was in the single digits.
So
that's a long time ago.
You definitely have to, you know, acknowledge and be respectful from those stories. I mean, it's hilarious to hear, you know, a story being retold, and you know that person who that story is about, and you're like, that person has been playing for the last 40 years, and you know what? That story is actually not accurate. If you want the real story, you should really find out it's actually much funnier, you know?
Yeah.
And I could introduce you to so-and-so.
Exactly. We need to keep them. Those older members have a breadth of knowledge, and guess what they can do with that breadth of knowledge? They can pass it down to these new, younger members.
Definitely.
And now they have it. But here's the thing about this newer, younger crowd that I don't think people are stopping to look at here is we're talking about a group of people that if they sniff gatekeeping, unfairness, discrimination, any of these things, they're gone. They will run to the competition. We'll never get them again. That's it.
Yeah.
We've got, this is why we need to take care of those older members, because I ran into this last summer, and it was such a thing to have happen to me. So I'm in armor, but I'm doing authorizations and, trying to get everybody ready for events because we're about to open up for events last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this new young fighter, and he approached me. He goes, "You going to get me authorized today?" And I was like, "I am absolutely going to get you authorized today, provided a knight shows up." And because no knights had showed up yet. And he looked at me with this bewildered look on his face. And he's like, "Aren't you a knight?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I haven't been recognized as a knight yet, sweetie. I'm sorry. And I have to have them to help me sign off on the paperwork here, or you're just not going to be authorized." And he goes, "But you've been playing like almost 40 years, right?" And I said, yeah, that is also true. But I have not been recognized as a knight yet, and I have to have a knight here to fill out this paperwork. But, I'm pretty sure one will be along here before too long, and we'll get this done. But the fact that I hadn't been knighted, it just totally blew his mind. And I could tell right then and there, it colored the way he saw the society.
Well, because there's that expectation. If I put in the time and I put in the effort and I want to be this, that I'll become this. And
Right.
so, well, if you've been playing this long, why aren't you this?
Yeah.
So I definitely can see how that colors newcomers and newer members and younger generation, that, their expectations.
Exactly. And I felt bad. I felt because, I don't want to be dishonest with this person.
Correct.
That's not a way to go
No,
either.
no.
That's not a good way to go.
Mm-mm.
So I had to tell him the truth. But that truth was going to color his outlook on the SCA, and it did. It did color it. It absolutely colored it.
Definitely. Well, and then to top it off, they're saying, regardless of you not having that title, they're saying there's this extra added restriction to just getting to play. They're saying that, hey, Lady Erin or Ladyship Erin, she's ready to authorize me, but she can't do it even though she's the Knight Marshal. It has to be somebody else.
Yeah.
So definitely, and that's something I don't know from a fighting standpoint is something that could change. Is that something that, as far as authorization to make it easier to play? But definitely the combination of the two for retention, I can see where that would be kind of that itchy, slub of fabric scratching your skin, driving you nuts all day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's and it was really too bad. And I did explain to him it is a 2-signature process here.
Mm-hmm.
But he was more aghast of the fact that I hadn't been knighted yet, and I'd been playing this long. And that's what colored it. It wasn't that I needed another signature.
Mm-hmm.
It was that I hadn't been knighted yet. That's what colored his outlook on it. And what am I supposed to say in this? Because the next question that follows is, why aren't you a knight? It's like, well, I don't know. You'll have to go ask them that, and they're not going to answer you. Yeah. Other than because Erin's not a knight. Which, okay.
And as a non-peer, being asked why you aren't a peer is it's kind of an annoying question. I mean, I understand, but it makes you kind of begin that whole process of self-doubt and questioning, and it becomes is my doubt going to reflect in my activity? Is it going to tarnish my experience? So it's definitely kind of it happens where you'll get people that will ask you those questions again and again. And it doesn't mean that you yourself don't have, the traits of a peer. It's just at that time, you, for whatever reason, have not been recognized by the Council of Peers for those.
Yeah.
And of course, by their majesties at the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those situations for retention that's very hard for older players to deal with, because newer players, you could ask a brand new person, playing, hey, why aren't you up here? They haven't put in time necessarily or figured out even the SCA or how they want to play the SCA or who they are in the SCA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God, it took me a couple of years before I decided on what persona I wanted to take. And I tried on a few of them and finally just went for the one that fit.
It took me 2 decades to register a name and device and decide what I wanted to do. So, I mean, and there's no rush. That's the nice thing. Like, there's no rush. Nobody's going to force you into, a square peg, round hole, whatever kind of situation.
Yeah.
You can choose. And you know what? You can choose to do everything. You can have multiple personas. No big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple names, multiple devices. I mean, you have a plethora of options. But unfortunately, we do find when we have those multiple options that we have to pick and choose what we're doing on any given day at an event. Because events, it's very seldom we wind up having we have multiple activities at the same time that compete for time.
Okay. Yeah, that's yeah, that was Raptor War this year, that's for sure.
And as retention goes, you wind up having sometimes couples that, one person in the couple fights, one person in the couple volunteers, or one person in the couple does art and the other person volunteers, or, a mix of whatever. And they wind up being apart during that time.
Yeah. My ex and I had that problem. I was fighting and doing, and she was doing something entirely different. And there'd be whole days at events we wouldn't even see each other. It'd be, dinner time, and it'd be like, well, how was your day? And I got to admit, on several occasions, I went, what is this like our mundane life? We don't see each other all day, and it's dinner, and we're having the same conversation at an SCA event that we have over the dinner table at home.
On our vacation.
On our vacation, yeah.
Or the other option of that is the one person gives up what they want to do.
Exactly.
I mean, sometimes you're lucky and you have, a partner that does exactly what you do. You've got those couples that are both heavy fighters, both artisans, both volunteering. That luckily could potentially be at the same place at the same time.
I got lucky with my lovely lady Diana, who I will remain hidden behind me because she wants to be hidden. She likes to watch me fight. She likes to videotape me fighting and what have you like that. And it's like, okay, you know what? That works. And if she's happy, I'm happy. Here we go.
And I am a little bit jealous because having a partner who does heavy fighting and I do arts, or he's volunteering and I'm and I'm doing art, or I'm volunteering and he's fighting, not having that person who is playing photographer or videographer and capturing those moments that you don't get to see when you don't have. And that is crucial as well to retention. Like, it's hard to not be at the same place with your significant other.
Oh, absolutely. The really great thing about an SCA event is also kind of the really bad thing about an SCA event. And that is there's a lot going on all at once here. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot for someone to go and do and take a taste of different things to do within our society.
Definitely.
But that's also the bad thing is there's just a lot going on at any event. If you've ever done camping with a household and then everybody, like after the morning breakfast, everybody's like ants and, they're gone.
Gone.
And nobody sees each other until that evening again. Yeah.
Unless they're the person doing cleanup, prepping a lunch for everybody, if there is a lunch being prepped, or prepping dinner. The people who are doing the food prep, they're the ones who will see everybody during the day. That's the only person at a camping event.
Yeah. It's so, on retaining these older members, and here's where I may upset the community. Here's what I got to say on that.
It's itchy, scratchy points that bother us. It's not going to be comfortable for people. And if it's not comfortable, that's a chance to pause, reflect, and think about why it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And for those of you out there that don't know me, I am the type of person, I will absolutely stop and tell you where the bear shits in the woods. Stop right there. So this is me telling y'all where the bear shits in the woods. If you are a peer and you have watched somebody play that long, beating their head up against the wall and they're just not figuring it out, and you know, gee, you know, if they just did this one thing, Bob's your uncle, they'd be that peerage that they want. My question for you is, why aren't you helping them? Why aren't you teaching them? Why aren't you doing that? I thought that's what peers did.
And hearing what's the common phrase, the just keep doing what you're doing, is definitely
I hate
helpful,
that
not
saying.
help.
I hate that saying. I hate that saying. Keep doing what you're doing. Really, I've been doing this now for 20 years and it hasn't been working out. You know, clearly that's not the answer. You know, it's, and you know, there's a right way to go about this. You know, there's the, you know, I think you're doing okay with your guard, but maybe it could be a bit better. Can I help you learn how to sew well enough to make the garb that you're wanting to make, to be and look more period?
Mm-hmm.
You know, same thing with fighting, you know, gosh, you're just almost there on your fighting. Why don't you come and we train outside of fighter practice? Let's just train and teach and learn, and let's get you to that point. Now, that being said, okay, let's take a little bit pause and also look at the individual that you're helping, okay? Because what if that individual's like me? I served active duty Army and I got really, really hurt doing that job. Those injuries from that job are now catching up to me. I'm 52 years old. It's caught up to me. Someone with those kinds of injuries, and there's other ways people get injured like that, you know, bad car accident, whatever, you know. But if somebody's that injured and they're going out and doing this physical thing like heavy fighting, might want to stop and think, okay, that body doesn't function normally anymore because it's been that injured, it's been that hurt. There are going to be physical limitations. Maybe, you know, one thing that the peerage could do is kind of, I don't know, stop and take a look at that. To go, yeah.
And there are, and that this is another thing we definitely want to dive into. There are a lot of individuals that you might not even know how bad they're hurting because they are so used to hiding it from the world and cover. Yeah. Calling you out just a little here, Erin, and hiding it from the world, whether it be that they're a veteran and served active duty, whether they were in an accident, whether they have a degenerative, you know, condition that's genetic, whether or not they have a different sort of, you know, situation that's, you know, just who they are. We really need to allow
mental
more
health, folks. Mental health.
Grace.
Yeah.
Need to allow grace, especially for those people. If we are aware that they have those hidden struggles, we don't have to call them out necessarily on their hidden struggles.
No.
But we definitely need to allow everyone grace when it comes to, you know, you notice maybe somebody doesn't move the same. You notice that somebody is out in the corner because there's too much noise and they're trying to destimulate, whether, you know, they are doing some sort of sensory stimulation to try to cope, you know, and they're fidgeting. That we need to allow grace. You know what? We need to allow grace when we see somebody who enters a tournament list and maybe they only fight one fight and then they're out and they have no more stamina and they're hurting. We need to allow them grace to not have everybody and their cousin bombard them asking if they're okay. As long as they have their support, they don't need an armada to, you know, kind of crush them with concern. I mean, the concern is wanted, but not needed, if that makes sense. I appreciate your concern, but let my husband take care of me. Let my girlfriend take care of me. Let my wife take care of me. Let my family, let my friend take care of me.
Yeah. I would also say, though, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about here with these older members. I also see people who are not being engaged by the members of the SCA at all, and they're literally sitting alone. Well, that's not cool either.
No.
You know, if we're all supposed to be friends, then by God, let's be friends. Okay? And let's not be exclusionary to those people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I get it. We don't all get along. Okay? When you put a group of people together, there's going to be people that just don't get along, and I get that. But that's not what I'm talking about here.
Getting along and being friends are completely different than being human and civil and courteous.
Right.
I mean, if it comes down to it, like, would I rather in my hobby be, you know, treated civilly and with courtesy and save the cliquish behavior for work? Yes. I don't have a choice at work. I have a choice in my hobby.
And there it is. And there it is. That we do have a choice in our hobby. You know, and our hobby should be better than that mundane world, because I'm here to tell you something, folks. That's one of the great things about when I was playing in the mid 80s, was the last thing any of us wanted to be was how we had to be in that mundane world. Definitely. We were going to be better than that.
I'm going to roll back just for a second. Cal had posted this weekend, he was approached about the topic when it comes to PTSD and fighting by a night with the new show series. If it resonates with you, fighting either post a major injury or with PTSD, please reach out to Kal-bardr's Corner, because as a new show, we always look for great guests to come on and talk about these topics. So definitely, if that happens to be you, and it doesn't have to be from being in the military, any injury. And PTSD is not just a veteran problem. It's survivors of trauma. Mm-hmm. So realize that also is included in that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we need to kind of, there again, take a pause. You know, what do we know about this person? Well, that person does have PTSD from a trauma. Okay. Well, you know, here's what that can mean. You know, and maybe we need to take a little extra time in teaching them. You know, give that grace again to this person. You know, a little understanding and a little compassion will go a long, long way.
Definitely. And you have to understand that giving that compassion and that grace to the one person, that's not just to that one person. That's also to everyone around who sees it. That also can change your perspective for retention. You can be disgruntled watching other people be torn down, watching other people not being granted that grace and courtesy.
Oh, absolutely. You know, all it takes is watching somebody have a bad run-in with someone else to make this person that's standing over there go, oh, wait, what have I gotten myself into here?
Or that one person you can visibly see being excluded, and you can decide that you don't want to be excluded like them. So you're gone.
Yeah, because, and you know, again, to point out, this newer, younger generation that we're trying to get into the SCA, and I understand why we are. They are so hyper aware of this stuff. It's just crazy how aware of it they are. And they are motivated, vocal, and on top of it.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
They won't have anything to do with an organization that does these things that they don't like. It's just not, they're not going to do it. We can't have that. Our numbers are low. Our actual membership numbers are low. We need new people. Yeah, a bunch of us are getting older, and some of these batons need to be passed off, and we don't have the amount of people we need to pass it off to.
Well, and as an officer, and as having held several different offices, you don't always want to be the person in charge of, running an office. We need to have those new ideas. We need to have that new viewpoint. We need to have a different experience in those positions. And if we chase off newcomers by the way we treat people who've been members forever, we're not going to have anybody but the people who are hanging on in those officer positions. And nothing will change and nothing will improve.
Yeah. We need new minds, fresh ideas. And there it is. And that's where we're going to get it. But we're not going to get them unless we change what we're doing. And I hear this one too. Well, change takes time. Okay. My advice to you is there's this pedal on the right. You need to step on it and reach over and grab a gear and up it. Because we need to be going faster. We need to move a lot faster. It's because right now we're driving about slow enough to drive Miss Daisy on this stuff, and that's not working. That's not going to work.
I can definitely see that point of view at times. Yes.
Yeah, it's so and
when it comes to change, you have to understand too, like the younger generations, literally everything happens at a microsecond.
Like
those changes happen so fast with technology. Those changes happen so fast socially. Those changes happen so fast in every aspect of their lives, and they expect it. They don't want to see something that takes forever.
I in my mundane life, because I am a fully disabled combat veteran, so I don't have a day job. So my day job is I help and assist young LGBTQIA individuals as much as we can in a red state. But I mainly deal with transgender people in trying to guide them in the transition, because I've done it. I've been through the whole road of it. And I point them in directions of, psychologists, medical doctors, surgeons, if they're looking for surgeons, stuff like that. But I'll tell you, because I've been down there at the Idaho legislature more times than I would care to be, literally turning to my state government going, I don't get what was wrong with you people. And what your problem is. But if you want to see some angry people that want change now, it's those 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds that are standing behind me, and they're upset, and they want this change right now. Not tomorrow, not a minute from now, right now. And that's the approach of that generation.
Yeah, it's not just in one aspect of their lives. It's every aspect.
Yeah. And we as the society need to understand that if we're going to court these people. I am not fielding new fighters like I have in years past when I've held this office. I used to field quite a few new fighters back in the day. I'm not this whole year, I maybe loaned out the loaner armor once, and that was just somebody that thought they knew how to sword fight and was going to go out and beat his Grace Morgan. And And we all know how his Grace likes to play with his food. And
he does it very well.
he does, yeah. And so, yes, Morgan got a meal that day, and that person has never been back, but not because he's disgruntled to the SEA. It's just his buddy went, hey, you really don't know how to sword fight because that guy totally kicked your ass, kind of thing, which was kind of funny. But, other than that, I have not loaned out the loaner armor. Nobody's contacted me about it. I have not attracted a single new fighter this entire year. That is disturbing to me because I hold fighter practice in about the most public place you can be, right in front of the zoo.
So without having recruitment, you can't have retention. So
Right.
Knowing a lot that we've talked about is newer members obviously have very different expectations. Do you think that the society needs to change its advertising, its recruitment strategies to help facilitate the recruitment?
I do. I think we need a bigger social media presence and a stronger one at that. This new generation is plugged in. We need to get plugged in. So yeah, a bunch of old fogies going to have to figure out how to use this new technology and be on the social media and do this sort of thing. We're going to have to figure it out. So let's do that. The other thing, and I guess, I can't speak for everywhere out there in the SCA. I can only speak for what I see going on in the places that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to be demoing a lot more, and maybe get back into some aggressive demoing. When I joined the SCA in '84, the Shire of Arnhold was all of 8 members. And we demoed, I mean, oh my God, did we demo?
Almost
we demoed
mercilessly.
like crazy. Oh, yeah.
Several times a month.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely several times a month. We would put on a demo anywhere. It was just getting somebody to let us do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how we became a barony, because I want to say the idea of, hey, why don't we become a barony? We should try to do that came about in about 85, 86-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, well, how many people do we got to have? Oh my gosh, 25 people. Holy crap, how are we going to pull that off,
Mm-hmm.
when there's now just 10 of us. It was a crazy time. But we did it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't here. I was unfortunately on active duty at the time that Arnhold became a barony. And I was deployed, so I couldn't come home on leave to enjoy it. But I was happy that it happened. Mm-hmm. I got this, I feel a little bit of pride because I helped that become a thing. For those of you that also don't know, Arnhold and Artemisia is very, very special in my heart. Because I was here before it was, because I helped lay foundations that built this, because that was the goal when I started playing was we're going to become a barony. We're going to become, a principality, and then we're going to become a kingdom. And that is the goal. And there were a lot of people that were pushing and moving and shaking to make that happen. I was a cog in that wheel.
Well, it really, like, that whole goal that you set for yourself, a goal in a group is to become a larger group, is to become, a group that has more events. It's a group that will have more people, which means that eventually you can give out awards, have royalty, that will be part of, kingdom court, because the baronies, the B&B will sit with the prince and princess and the king and queen. So, I mean, that's the expectation. And to not have a small group, eventually have aspirations to become a larger group would be silly and also kind of disheartening.
Well, yeah. And, here again, we set a goal. Mm-hmm. Why is that goal any different than the goal of, I want to be a knight? Why is it any? It's not. It's not any different.
Mhm.
It's the same energy, motivation, and you know, desire, for lack of a better phrase, to
Definitely.
achieve that. And those are good things because it was all of us here, all 10 of us, that we had that energy, we had that desire, and it was first thing we got to do is we got to get a bunch more people into this game. And we went out and did that. We went out and
Definitely.
did that. So you know, it's and yeah, there was a learning curve. We had to learn stuff. We had to ask things of people that knew things that we did not. And
Mhm.
you know, folks, this is back in the day before internet and email or any of that. You know, you joined the SCA and you bought the Known World Handbook and you got it 4 weeks later in the mail, because I think they printed those on demand back in those days. Um,
And
and
you
that's how you
found
figured out
the
SCA.
information on a piece of paper tacked to a wall with little tabs that had your phone number and name on
Yeah,
it to call for information.
yeah.
Business cards were like handwritten on a piece of paper and torn. If you had nice
Or napkin.
photocopied one or printed ones, that was super impressive.
Yeah, yeah. It's you know, it's things moved. Information moved a lot slower at that time. Now information moves at the speed of light, and we're still kind of dragging around like things move like it did back in the older days, and that's just it's not going to work for this new crowd.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. Um, we've got to get with the times. We've got to get with the concerns
Mhm.
and feelings of this newer, younger generation if we're going to attract them and then pass that baton on to them. Because
With
yeah, there will come a day where I can't fight. There will come a day where I cannot hold this office anymore, and I will need to pass the baton on to someone else.
Well, and most officers, usually your warrant is good for a term of anywhere, depending on, your kingdom, like 1 to 3 years,
Mhm.
right? Most officers kind of feel pigeonholed in their position and are serving like a 10-year. You know, I've known a seneschal that's been in their position for 9 years. Not a kingdom a seneschal, but like a local shire seneschal. 9 years is a very, very long time. With exchequers in positions for more than that.
Yeah,
Nobody should be forced to volunteer their time because no one else is interested in taking their place or trying it out.
absolutely. And you brought up exchequer. We need to make that job sound less scary because most of the people I talk to won't take that job because, oh no, that's dealing with the money. And no, no, no. We need to make that job less scary.
And it's really not as scary as it sounds. It really,
No,
really isn't.
it isn't. No.
I mean, literally, my husband actually just stepped up as the local baronial exchequer. The time that he spends, stop telling people they can go to jail.
That was good.
Oh, Pora, I love you. Thora. Um, the time he spends doing the report and balancing, the account for a barony, which is a larger group,
Oh yeah.
he spends less time doing that than doing our actual accounting, balancing our own accounts for himself and myself. Like, literally less time is spent.
Yeah. You know, if people are worried about time,
And it's
the
almost all
marshalate jobs take up the most time.
it is, but at the same time, I will say that having known many marshals in different areas, I am a little envious. Having served as Shadow Lane, I literally would have to follow the marshals around because that is
Mhm.
the most public facing exposure that
Oh
right
yeah.
now the SCA has, other than the videos that are produced and put online, other than
Yeah.
what you see as social media, which is very, very small for what we could be doing. So, night marshals, rapier marshals, archery marshal, thrown weapon marshals, literally have the most exposure
We
of
do.
any part of our organization.
We are oftentimes the first thing that someone that's never heard of the SEA contacts first. We are that first contact.
And a lot of times you don't have a chatelaine present. And a chatelaine should totally be present at as many practices as humanly possible. Because
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
if somebody's going to walk up and say, hey, what are you doing? It's going to be at a fighter practice.
That's exactly how it does happen is, what is this? What are those people doing? Oh my God, are they going to get killed here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, that's where you whip out the brochure and go, no, here we go. You know, and that is the chatelain's job. That's what the chatelaine does. When my chatelain's not there, I have to do it.
And we actually have a newer member on listening and watching, Pora. Lady Pora is in a unique position where she serves as chronicler. She's actually a younger generation, very familiar with how amazing QRC codes are, and has created QRC codes. That is technology that definitely having a QRC code at a fighter practice that would direct you to the group page, kingdom, society, barony, shire, canton, college, whatever the group happens to be, is amazing. And you know what? We're at the end of the show. Poor Thora, you get my shout out, Lady Thora. Dana Hughes mundanely in our chat. Like, she is incredible, and it is people like her that we want to retain. People like her who make this game and the dream that much more amazing.
Absolutely.
So now that I've done my shout out and I jumped the gun, Your Ladyship, do you have a shout out for any individual, any organization, any group, anything that you want to shout out?
I do. And it's kind of funny because he and I have not talked since this has happened. But I do feel I owe this person a lot. My shout out goes to Sir William Gallowglass in Roxalon here in Kingdom of Artemisia. Sir William was the first knight I ever met. And we were buddies there for a while. I wish we were buddies like that again. I do miss those days with him. And it was him that made me believe that I could become a knight. And it wasn't because he said you could be a knight. He never actually said those words to me. It was just him being him that made me believe that I could do it.
He is definitely an incredible member of the SEA, and he makes you just believe. He has those stories as a longtime member. He has a lot of those origin stories. You know, he has a huge breadth of knowledge, and I have to tell you, one of the funniest, amazing, most brilliant sense of humor that I have seen in a long, long time. So I totally love your shout out. Let me go ahead really quick, and I'll drop once again our future episodes and give you our pluggables here. As said earlier on 10/18 on Ask a Knights Live, we do have King Connor and Prince Axel from Glen Avon. You do not want to miss this show. Then, of course, coming up on 10/23 with Coffee with Cal, enabling is a peer like quality, and I can tell you I've met plenty of peers that definitely are enablers with Baroness Patrona. And then on 11/6 on Road to Retention, I'm going to have a special guest who happens to be one of the new hosts from Ask a Knights Live, Edward Littlejohn, newly Lord Edward Littlejohn, as of an event in August, I believe. You won't want to miss that too. It's going to be fun. And then, you know, if you want to just support Kal-bardr's Corner, you can definitely support us by going to our Patreon, /KK Productions. You could wind up on this amazing grand wall of patrons. Or, you know, maybe you like merch. We have stickers. Or you can also get sheets. Go to Redbubble and search for KK Productions. It's cool. You could wind up with your very own Trauma Onion sticker or Do Nightly Things sticker. Or you could put that on your sheets and do nightly things in your sheets. If you want to see what Kal-bard's up to, you know, he's off at Great Western War in just a couple days. And, you know, he was just at West Crown. So you can check Cal out at TikTok at Kal-bardr. You can see what I'm up to, although it might be kind of silly lately because I've been using TikTok more for silliness necessarily than SCA at Gina Kits at TikTok. Thank you so much, Your Ladyship, for joining me, sharing your perspective, you know, maybe being the squeaky cog in the wheel to get things noticed that need to be noticed, and hopefully improving retention in our game because we need to improve this. We can do better.
Thank you so much for having me on and getting me to squeak very loudly. And yeah, I hope I have made a difference out there. I hope at the very least I made you stop and think.
Definitely. Thank you, everybody.